They always have music playing. They fall asleep to noise, wake up to notifications, and fill every gap in their day with sound, motion, or distraction. Because for them, silence isn't peaceful, it's threatening. It's the moment the noise outside stops and the noise inside finally starts. You see, silence is a mirror, and not everyone is ready to look at what it reflects. For some, silence feels like loneliness. For others, it feels like guilt, regret, anxiety, 1,000 unprocessed thoughts echoing all at once. So they run from it, not physically, but mentally. They fill their minds with playlists, podcasts, people, anything to avoid hearing the sound of their own thoughts. Psychologists call this avoidant coping. It's the habit of escaping inner discomfort by keeping the external world loud. Because when you've lived through chaos, silence feels unnatural. When you've grown up in environments where stillness meant danger, a slammed door, a quiet before the storm, you learn to associate peace with anxiety. Your body doesn't trust calm. So even when life is safe, your mind keeps searching for noise. Neuroscientists explain this through hyperarousal, a state where your nervous system never fully relaxes. You stay on, even when there's no threat. And in that constant alertness, silence becomes unbearable. It feels too slow, too empty, too exposed. But the truth is, silence isn't empty. It's full of everything you've been avoiding, full of memories, emotions, voices from your past that you've buried under noise. Philosopher Blaise Pascal once said, "All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone." And he was right. Silence reveals things we'd rather ignore. It asks questions like, who are you when no one's watching? Are you proud of the way you live? Do you even like your own company? And for many people, those questions are louder than any sound they could play. People who can't stand silence often carry a quiet restlessness. They check their phones when they're anxious. They talk through movies. They keep the TV on not to watch it, just to feel less alone. But what they're really avoiding isn't loneliness, it's confrontation with themselves. Because silence forces you to meet the parts of you you've neglected, the sadness you didn't grieve, the decisions you regret, the feelings you keep postponing. Psychologists have found that introspective silence, moments of stillness, reflection, or mindfulness, activates parts of the brain related to emotional regulation and healing. It helps integrate memory and reduce anxiety. But if your inner world feels unsafe, silence can feel like drowning in thoughts. That's why so many people avoid it, because it brings back emotions they've spent years trying to bury. People who fear silence are often those who've had to stay on to survive. They're the caretakers, the fixers, the ones who never had time to rest. Stillness feels foreign to them. It's in stillness that they remember what they've lost, who they used to be, what they never said. So they fill their days with doing, because the moment they stop, the grief catches up. There's another layer to this too, The dopamine cycle. Our brains are wired for stimulation now. Every scroll, every notification, every piece of noise gives us a small hit of validation. So silence doesn't just feel uncomfortable, it feels like withdrawal. We've trained our minds to need constant input, and without it, we start to feel empty. Not because we are, but because we've forgotten how to exist without distraction. People who can't stand silence are often the same people who struggle with presence. They think about tomorrow while living today. They replay yesterday while trying to fall asleep. Their mind is always elsewhere, anywhere but here. Philosopher Alan Watts once said, "Meditation is the discovery that the point of life is always arrived at in the immediate moment. But when you're afraid of silence, you're also afraid of that moment, the one that demands you to feel instead of flee." And yet, silence is where real healing begins. Because healing doesn't happen while you're talking, moving, performing. It happens in the pauses, in the spaces where there's nothing left to distract you. It happens when the mind stops running and the heart finally catches up. It's only in silence that you can hear what your pain has been trying to tell you, that you can understand what your anxiety is trying to protect you from, that you can meet the version of yourself that's been waiting to be heard. If you can't stand silence, it's not because you're shallow or broken. It's because your silence has never been safe. It's because quiet reminds you of the moments when love left the room, when someone stopped talking, when the world went still and it hurt too much. But silence is not the enemy. It's the medicine you've been avoiding. Because once you make peace with it, silence doesn't feel like absence anymore. It feels like presence. It feels like finally being home. You learn that silence isn't empty. It's full of answers. That stillness doesn't mean nothing's happening. It means everything is healing. And when you stop fearing silence, you stop running from yourself. You start listening. You start breathing. You start living differently, not louder, but deeper. Because sometimes the most profound sound in the world is your own soul finally exhaling.